What's up, guys? I posted a question on X yesterday about Arnold Schwarzenegger. What's your favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movie? And not my favorite, but one of the most underrated, easily, has to be Raw Deal. And I got to review it. I watched it yesterday, and I wasn't planning on reviewing it, but why not? This one's for me. I'm reviewing Raw Deal, damn it. And what's the P stand for? Raw Deal stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, Catherine Harold, Darren McGavin, and is directed by John Irvin. What's up, guys? Welcome to a classic action review. This will get 37 views. I'm not going to be in the Drumdums algorithm. This one's for me, and that's fine. Sometimes I just, you know what? Sometimes I don't play the game. I want to talk about something, so I just want to talk about it. Now, I wasn't planning on reviewing Raw Deal. But you know what? I got to give a shout out to Christian Hanna. He's planted the seed that started me down this rabbit hole, because he's been posting these shorts, and he posted this one about Last Action Hero, which I did watch Last Action Hero again like a couple months ago on Netflix. And he stated that it's his favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Arnold Schwarzenegger has had quite the colorful catalog. And I wouldn't be shocked if anybody says, you know, Junior is their favorite Schwarzenegger movie. To the guy's credit, he's done such a variety of roles throughout his career, and we all benefited from it. So if you love Last Action Hero the most, then hey, more power to you. I love you, Christian. But you're the one that made me go down this rabbit hole, and I thought, hey, what about Raw Deal? Nobody ever talks about Raw Deal, and I think it's so damn underrated. I love that movie to death. I have a great backstory. It's not great, but it's my own little backstory with the movie, which we'll get into. I watched Raw Deal. Schwarzenegger, and you can see it behind me there, pretty much where my thumb is. Boom, right there, yeah. Raw Deal. I watched that because I have a soft spot for that movie. I remember renting it on VHS back in the mid-'80s, like 86 is when it came out. I remember I went over to my friend's house. I had a friend, and he had one of those, the big, thick VCR. It pops out, you know, out the top, and you slide the cassette in there. You know, and it weighed like 100 pounds, you know, like you need two people to carry the damn thing. And I remember we rented Raw Deal, because this was after Commando came out. You know, he would put out like a movie every year. I remember really enjoying it, but it's not Commando. It's definitely not that flavor. It's definitely got some action in it, but it's different. It's different. But anyway, that's enough of my backstory. Let's get into a quick plot synopsis of Raw Deal. Arnold Schwarzenegger plays Mark Kaminsky. He is a small town sheriff, and how he figures into the story is there's this guy that's an old friend of his that worked for the Bureau, FBI, by the name of Harry, played by Darren McGavin. We all know him from A Christmas Story. But the beginning of the movie, there is this raid because there's this character named Blair who is Harry's son that's in witness protection, and they are attacked in true 80s action movie style at the beginning of the movie. And by the way, there's a nice little cameo from George P. Wilbur in there. He's in a couple of scenes in this movie. Just kind of jumped out at me. But that scene's kind of hilarious because you know, it's just brutal. And then right at the end, he goes, "Witness this." And he freaking just blows his head off.
Witness this.
And I'm like, oh my God, I miss this decade of action movie. They're just so fun. But of course, Harry is the grieving father, and he calls in Mark because Mark looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And why not? But Mark has to wipe himself off of the grid, right? He has to make it look like he died, he fakes his death. And then he goes undercover as this other character, Joseph P. Brennan. Don't dare ask him what the P stands for.
Joseph P. Brennan. What's a P stand?
Pussy.
Which is kind of silly because at the beginning of the movie, there's really no setup or no building of his relationship with his wife, Amy. But the scene itself is just really funny because she's making a cake for dinner. And he's like, "We're going to get fat." And she's like, "I don't give a fuck." You know, she's a pissed off housewife.
And you know what a cow's big
biggest contribution to this world is?
She's going to be even more pissed off the next day because he's going to be dead, at least in her mind. And they don't really like explore, her grieving or anything like that because this is just a straight up 80s action movie and we ain't got time for that bullshit. But, one of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger lines comes out of that scene when he says, "Don't drink and bake." And only Arnold could pull that off.
You should not drink and bake.
Now, the guys that killed Harry's son are led by this guy, Petrovita. He's kind of the crime boss, the crime lord. And Sam Wanamaker really owns this role. It's a little bit cartoonish at times, but he plays it quite well. I think 80s supporting actors, especially in action movies, they had a certain panache about them, a certain style, and you would see them bounce from action movie to action movie to action movie. Hell, the guy that played Mike in Breaking Bad, you would see him pop up all the time in the 80s in these movies. But watching Arnold Schwarzenegger work undercover is really the fun of this movie. And I think when people watch it for the first time, they're expecting Commando, because this movie came out after Commando. And I was quite taken off guard the first time I saw it, and I thought this doesn't compare to Commando. But as I've watched it through the years, I've come to appreciate it almost just as much as Commando because of how different and how character-based it is. Arnold Schwarzenegger is quite charming in this movie as well. He's a married man, and he's, in his mind, he's still not going to cheat on his wife, even though he's pretty much dead to her. But he meets this lady who is completely smitten with him, MoNique, and she's actually a card that's played by the crime underworld to sort of spy on Mark, or Joseph. I'm going to call him Mark throughout the rest of the view, but yeah, to sort of spy on him, but then she falls for him. So you got a little bit of a would-be love story there, but it doesn't pan out because he's a married man, and he tells her pretty early on in the movie, because she guesses that, "Are you married?" And he's like, "Yeah, for a long time." Right away, you really like Mark as a character. He's still an honorable man. But as a lot of these movies go, Mark does get into deep along the way. It gets really, really dangerous. And, to the point where Harry himself becomes a target. It's one of those situations kind of like in Goodfellas where the mafia, if things are getting too bad, let's just kill everybody. And that's what they want to do. They put out a hit on Harry, but Mark doesn't know that Harry is the guy. They don't tell him until they get there. And then when he realizes it, that's when the story takes a shift and it becomes a revenge story.
Harry, waste them!
And then Mark becomes the Commando Arnold Schwarzenegger, pretty much. This movie does have that getting ready for war montage like we see in a lot of those 80s Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, and they're just really fun. By the way, Chris Boardman does the music for this movie. I never heard of Chris Boardman's name. I'm sure he probably did some other 80s movies, but I love the score of this one too. There's a few cues that really jump out at you, and I had forgotten them because I hadn't seen the movie in years. But as soon as they came on, I was like, oh yeah, there it is. I remember that. I love musical scores in movies, especially 80s action movies, that really have a certain signature to them. And so I think this movie pleases a lot of different audiences. If you want the good character work, it's here. Arnold even said that he liked doing this movie because it made him a better actor.
Thought we could still be living in New York. You did not have to quit.
They gave me a chance to resign. If it would have gone to trial, I would have lost and they would have kicked me out. I wouldn't have even had a chance to get this job.
If you want the balls out action, it's there in the final act. When he goes to the gravel pit, and then he goes to the bar and just starts offing everybody, Commando style. This movie has everything. It's all there, and it's got the funny Arnold one-liners that we all know and love. I wonder what Durant from Durant Cinema thinks of this movie. I have to ask him because he's the Arnold nut. Now, I do have the DVD. I've had it for years. I need to pick it up on Blu-ray if you can still get it. I'm pretty sure you probably can, but I'm glad that I still own the DVD. And as a matter of fact, it's one of my all-time favorite movie posters for Arnold Schwarzenegger's movies. It's just so badass looking at that, right? Just Arnold with his tank top, Bruce Willis style, kicking ass. Seeing George P. Wilbur pop up, and also Dick Durock. I didn't mention him earlier. He's also in here. He played the evil Hulk in The Incredible Hulk, that episode that scared the living shit out of me. So, there's just a lot of stuntmen and background actors that really jump out of the screen in movies like this, right? Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't really want to even do this movie. because he was just trying to fulfill his obligation to Dino De Laurentiis.
This must be what they mean by poetic justice.
But I think he was glad that he ended up doing it. You know, I think every movie you do is an education, a lesson, and that's the way Arnold looked at it. So, raw deal. Definitely giving this one a purchase worthy. Had a blast rewatching this movie, and I highly recommend watching this one if you guys haven't seen it. Also, let me know down in the comments your favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, you know, or most underrated. I think I'd be more interested in that answer. So, yeah, let me know. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. And on Fridays, we do Free for Fridays. Follow my Drumdums on my social, support me on Patreon. Buy me a coffee. And guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a good day. Drumdum out.